another episode of Eric's Messy Garage. Today we're going to try and see if we can find out why the trunk popper is not currently working for my project MX-5. We've got a number of steps we're going to take to try and figure out why it's not working. So let's go ahead and begin. Steps 1 and 2 are pretty straightforward. We're going to go ahead and see if we can get the trunk popper to operate via the switch inside the cabin and my key fob. So first, we're going to try the key fob. And nothing. So we could see that there was a light flashing on the key fob. In particular, this key fob, you have to press really hard to activate the switches. At some point I may open it up and see if I can figure out why that is. The next step is there's a button underneath the dash that says trunk opener. And we're going to go ahead and push that and see if anything happens. Okay, so nothing happened. So now we can move on to our next step. The next step we need to take is to check the switch that's in the trunk. There's a switch in the trunk that allows you to activate or deactivate the trunk popper. The purpose of this switch is so that if you want to leave the top down, somebody can't come up to your vehicle and just press the button and open the trunk. So we're going to go ahead and check out that switch right now. Okay, we're in the trunk here, and the button is pressed out, which means the trunk opener is off. We're going to press the button in and see if it works now. All right. Alright, now that we've tried the really basic items, we need to move on to step 2 of our diagnostics. We need to check for power both at the fuse panel and then also back at the relay. So we're going to start by opening the hood and checking the appropriate fuse. Okay, for this step, we need to go into the fuse panel that is inside the engine bay. We're going to be looking for a fuse that is called room 15 amp. To open up the fuse box, there's a tab located at the front of the fuse box that you push in. Then you simply pull up and out. This is the fuse diagram located on the underside of the fuse box. In this case, we were looking for the fuse labeled room 15 amp. There's a fuse puller tool located inside the fuse cover. So we're going to attempt to remove the fuse using the fuse puller. Once we've located the fuse, we're going to use the fuse puller and pull it out. Here you can see inside the fuse panel. And this fuse here is the one we were pulling. We can then do a visual inspection of the fuse. And what we're looking for is to make sure that the fuse is not broken, that the wire inside is good. We're also going to do an additional test, which is a continuity test using a multimeter. Now that we know the fuse is good, we're going to do one last test to make sure that we're getting power back to the trunk popper unit. Let's go ahead and do that now. I've placed the camera inside the trunk. I'm now going to go push the button inside the car for the trunk release. The goal is we need to hear a click from the relay. If we don't hear a click from the relay, then we're not getting power back here. Hopefully you were able to hear that click. What that click means is we are getting power back here to the relay, but now we need to do some further investigation on the unit. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at how we disassemble the inside of the trunk so that we can access the trunk popper mechanism behind it. Our next step is to remove this panel right here. In order to remove this panel, it is quite simple. There's a number of these little plastic pieces that simply need a little pick, and you just pull out and remove them. So let me go ahead and do that. There is approximately 4 at the top and 4 at the bottom. Mine is missing several of them, so we don't have to remove quite so many. Then simply pull the panel off and out of your way. Once the panel is off, you're going to see 2 different connectors. One is for the interior dome light inside the trunk, and the other one is for that trunk popper switch. It's very important that that one remains in place, otherwise we won't be able to finish our diagnostics. Alright, so what we're looking at here is the actual trunk popper mechanism itself. The mechanism starts here. This is your trunk latch up here. And then this right here is the emergency exit if somebody was trapped in the trunk. I would be really worried if somebody got trapped in here because this thing is tiny. And then it goes to the actual key all the way over here. So in the case of using the emergency latch, simply you push down and it releases the mechanism like this. But we want this unit over here to function. So what we've got is the wires, the purple and the red, that go to the unit to tell it whether or not it's allowed to operate. We've got the blue and the black, which comes down here from the solenoid, which we confirmed that we're getting clicking at the solenoid. Being that we were able to track that we have power coming all the way to the solenoid, our next step is to go ahead and test the solenoid itself. So we're going to go ahead and pull out our pick that we had before. Kind of hard to do with one hand, so I'm going to go ahead and put the camera down. There's a little tab here that we have to pull the solenoid over. I'm sorry, I'm saying solenoid. I mean to say relay. And we're going to go ahead and undo the other side. Alright, the first side snapped back in for me. That's exactly what I wanted to have happen. Alright, it's free. Okay, so this is what our relay looks like. If you're familiar with the relay, in this particular case, we have, this is the signal that comes from the trunk popper inside the car, so you'll be in and out, and then this is the power that passes through to actually release power to the trunk popper solenoid. Okay, now we're going to do a little trick of mine. So essentially all the relay does is regulates when power is allowed to go to and from the source to the load. So we're going to just go ahead and bypass the relay altogether, and we're going to complete the circuit. So all I've done is taken a piece of wire, stripped off the ends, and just made a very short jumper. So what we're going to do, hopefully you'll be able to sort of see this, is go ahead and insert the jumper so it's touching the terminals on both sides. In this case, you're trying to connect the blue wires. So let's go ahead and do those terminals
Look at that. Are you seeing that? So what that tells me is that this relay is bad. Unfortunately, I do not have a replacement, so I'm gonna have to order one before we can install that. Okay, so today we went through how to diagnose a problem with a fairly simple electrical issue. The same process that we went through on this can be applied to many other problems in your vehicle. It's just a simple process of elimination. Start at the easiest point and work your way all the way to the source. We'll go ahead and get the replacement relay on order, and I would assume it'll work, and we'll find out next time. Thanks so much. Just as a closing thought, if you're like me and you only have one key for your car and you're doing work inside your trunk, make sure that whenever you use your key to open your trunk, close it, put it in your pocket.